Welcome to section 12.2, rational functions. This is the last video in a group of 3, so this is video number 3, and in this video we're going to just talk about function families. So we've done a lot with functions over the past year, and we're going to just review those. So you should have a little sheet like this out in front of you, and you should be able to fill it in. So let's talk about different function families, and oh, isn't this so sweet? It's so sweet. That's so exciting. So let's look at our first function family and let's look at the linear function. The linear function, if we're looking at this, we can essentially determine that our main function for linear functions, we have that y is equal to mx plus b format. And our parent function for something like this is this equation, y is equal to x. Essentially, there's no y-intercept, the slope is 1, and so our parent function is essentially this line right here, this red one right here, where it just goes right up 1 over 1, perfectly fine. Our linear function, any other linear function, is just going to be a rendition of that. It'll have a different y-intercept, might have a different slope, that sort of thing. M in our function is the slope. Make sure you're filling this out as you go along. It rotates our graph, and our B is the y-intercept. And it translates the graph vertically, so it makes it move up or down on that y-axis. So those are the different ways that we can actually change our linear functions up, and we know how to graph them. We worked with them for a very long time at the beginning of the year. The last half of the year we've been working with quadratic functions, and quadratic functions in standard form look something like this. Y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, where our parent function, something super basic, the ultimate parent function, the ultimate quadratic function would be y is equal to x squared. So y is equal to x squared is again in red on this little graph. It's hard to see, I'm sorry, very blurry. It's also in your book if you'd like to look at it on page 862. The A determines the width of our parabola, and it also determines the direction. So it determines the direction it opens, whether it's opening up or down. So if it's opening up, that A is positive. It's opening down, that B is negative. The C translates the graph vertically, so it tells us our y-intercept. And the axis of symmetry is the vertical line. So the axis of symmetry is the vertical line that sort of dictates where everything becomes reflected. So last week when we were working with chapter 11, we worked with square roots. And square root functions are something that looks like this. Y is equal to the square root of x minus a, oops, that was a b, x minus a square root plus b. Our parent function would simply be y is equal to the square root of x. So that is, again, the red function right there. We never had to graph these, which is kind of nice, but at the same time we manipulated a lot of these functions so we could play around with the concept of square roots. A translates the graph horizontally, and the B translates the graph vertically. So it moves the graph up, or it moves the graph down, and I spelled vertically with 3 L's and not just 2. So vertically. So essentially, if you look at this, we have a function right here, and it says y is equal to the square root of x minus 2 minus 3. Hard to see, I know, but it moved our original function over to the right, 2, and then down 3. So there's our 2, our moving of 2, and there's our moving of 3. So that's kind of cool. We played around with that, and we didn't really get into the graphing aspect, but we at least played around this with the square roots. Last but not least, rational functions, and that's what we're into right now. The original function is y is equal to 1 over x plus, or x minus b, sorry, x minus b plus c. So the B translates the graph. We've already talked about this. The B translates the graph horizontally. And the C translates the graph vertically. vertically. I can spell today. Vertically. So essentially, if we had our parent function, which is going to be y is equal to 1 over x, if we had our parent function, which is the red graph that's right here, and we had a different function, which we can see the one that's graphed is y is equal to 1 divided by 1 by x minus 1 plus 2, it has been translated horizontally 1 to the right. So it has moved from the origin part 1 to the right. And then it has also moved vertically up 2. So its new origin is right here versus the other graph, the origin was right there at 0, 0. So we have a translation of the origin. Kind of fun. These are function families. Hopefully you can fill out this little piece of paper and sort of conceptualize. This is what we did for the entire year, fit into a nice little 4-graph box. We were able to figure out what exactly we've done for the whole year. I hope you are able to use this page next year with geometry and then the year after with Algebra 2. And yeah, it was a great year. Ciao, guys.